continue now at the top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 16a. The Gemara is continuing to bring this Mishnah in Meseches Midos. The Mishnah continues Jeromis Mizrachis in the southeastern side. Again, this is the southeastern side of the Beis HaMoked. We had these four chambers on all four sides. So in the southeast, Hi Lishka Shahayu Osen Bo Lechem Haponim. That was the Lishka where they made the Lechem Haponim. Mizrachis Tzifonis, and in the northeast side, Bo Gonzu Beis Chashmonoi Avne Mizbeach. It was over there that the Chashmonoim, they hid away the stones of the Mizbeach, Sheshiksu Malchei Ovdei Kochavim, which the kings of the Ovdei Kochavim, they had desecrated them. And Tzifonis Ma'aravis, in the northwestern side, Bo Yordan LeBeis HaTvila, it was through there that they went down to the Beis HaTvila, to the area they immersed. Rashi over here says, Sheshiksu Malchei Ovdei Kochavim, Shektiru Alel Avodas Kochavim B'Mikdash. In other words, they used those stones for Avodah Zarah in the Beis HaMikdash. In any case, the contradiction here between this Mishnah Meseches Midos and the Mishnah in Talmud is as follows, because Katani, Belishkas Hatzalayim, Shubim Aravis Dromis. Here it says that the Lishkas Hatzalayim was in the southwest, which contradicts the Mishnah in Meseches Talmud. And so the Gemara answers, Amar Ravhuna. Ravhuna says, Man Tana Midos. Who is the Tana of the Mishnah in Meseches Midos? Rashi says, Man Tana Hamasnis in the Meseches Midosi. Who is the author of the Tana in Meseches Midos? Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. He that refers to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, as Rashi says, Distame the Masnis in the Midos Kaimi Kevase. The Stam Mishnayis in Meseches Midos follow Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Ditznan, as we learned in the Mishnah. Again, this is also a Mishnah Meseches Midos. Ezras Noshim Haisa Orech Mea Ushloshim V'Chomesh. The Ezras Noshim was a length of 135. Al Rochav Mea Ushloshim V'Chomesh, and it had a width of 135. V'Arba Lishkos Hayu Bedalad Mixoseh, and there were four chambers in its four corners. Umahayu Meshamshas, and what was the purpose of these chambers? Dromis Mizrachas Hiyaisa Lishkas Hanazirim. The southeastern chamber was the Lishkas Hanazirim. Shasham Nazirim Evashlim Es Shalmehen Umegalchin Sarah, and it was over there that the Nazirs would cook their carbon shlamim. They would shave their hair. Umeshalchin Etachas Hadur, and then they would place it underneath the dud, under the fire. Mizrachis Sephonis, what was in the northeastern corner? Hiyaisa Lishkas Dir Ha'etzim Shasham Kohanim Balei Mumin Omdim Umaslian Be'etzim Shekol Eitz Sheyesh Bo Tolas Pasal Lagavi Mizbech. It was over there that they had the Dir Ha'etzim, meaning the pieces of wood which had worms inside of them. They would be declared pasal for the Mizbeach. Tzfonis Ma'aravis, in the northwestern corner, Hiyaisa Lishkas HaMitzorayin. That was the Lishka for the Mitzorah. For the Mitzorayin, and Ma'arav is Dromis. What was the southwestern corner? Amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Shachachti ma'hoisa mishameshes. I forget what it was used for. Abba Shaul Omer, and Abba Shaul says, B'hayu nosen yayin v'sheven. It was there where that they placed the wine and the oil. V'hoisa nikras lishkas beis shemanya. It was called the lishkas beis shemanya. And Rashi over here explains, Hoisa orech min hamizrach l'mayra, from east to west. That's considered the length. Al rocha min atzaf and l'darim. The width is considered north to south. Rashi's addressing the fact that the Ezras Nashim, the length and the width were the same. So how do you know which one's referred to as the length and which is referred to as the width? So again, east to west is the length, north to south is the width. This refers again to the hair of the Nazirs. They would throw it underneath the pot into the fire. They had put in the fire that was under the Zevach HaShlamim. The dud was the pot that had the Zevach HaShlamim. The fire was underneath, and that's again where they would throw the hair. That's what it says over here. Shasham Nazir Mevashlam Eshalmein Umegalchin Saron Umeshalchin Tachas Hadud. They would put it underneath the dud, meaning into the fire. And then we also had over here the Lishkas Dir Ha'etzim. Now we should note over here that the Bach takes out the word dir. It should just be the Lishkas Ha'etzim. That was the Lishka again where the Kohanim, who were Balei Mumin, so they couldn't serve in any other way, they would inspect the wood to make sure that it didn't have any worms that would be kosher for the Mizbeach. And then the last chamber was the Lishkas HaMitzorayin, Mefarish Bepirkin de Lakaman. That will be explained in the parak later on. Shasham HaMitzorayin Tovlin Bishmini L'Ta'arasan Keshaboin Lahachnas Yedain Levahonos Afalpi Shatavami Be'erev. It was in that area that the Mitzorayin would do Tevila when they went to enter their hands in to do what they needed to do with their thumbs in terms of the purification process, even though they already did a Tvila Mi Ba'erev. And then when we got to the Lishka, the last Lishka, the Ma'aravis Jeromis, Amr Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Shachachti Mechlal Deresh Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Kamarla. The whole point of this is to say that from this Mishnah it sounds like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is the author of this whole Mishnah, so you can assume he's the stam author of the Mishnayos in Meseches Midos. And again, that Mishnah goes on to bring Abba Shaul's opinion in terms of what that particular chamber was for. And the Gemara continues, Hachanami Mistabra de Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. It also makes sense to say that the Mishnayos in Meseches Midos actually follow Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Tetnan, as we learned in the Mishnah, as follows. Rashi over here says, "Hachanam mistaber the stama de midos Rebbe Elazar kamerlo de tanan kol aksala velo mozes mukmas no lo elok Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov." The following Mishnah, which we're going to quote from Meseches Midos, is going to have to follow the opinion of Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. Again, the Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, as follows: Kol aksolim shahayu sham, all of the walls that were on the Har Habayis, hayu gavoin, they were high walls. Chutz mikosel mizrachi, except for the eastern wall. All of this will be explained by Rashi. Shehakohen hasorif esapara, because the Kohen that had to burn the para aduma, omed bahar hamishcha, he would stand at the Har Hamishcha, umechavein v'roa keneged pischo shel heichel b'shas hazoas hadam, and he would have to be able to see the entrance of the heichel at the time of the sprinkling of the blood, and that's why they had to lower the eastern wall. And what were the measurements of the wall? Utznan, we learned in the Mishnah, kol hapsachim shal yusham, all of the doorways that were in the Beis HaMikdash, govon eser amma v'rochvon eser amos. They were 20 amos high, they were 10 amos wide. Utznan, and the Mishnah says, lifnim mimenu soreg, from within there was the soreg. We'll see all this in Rashi as well. Utznan, lifnim mimenu hachel eser amos, then the chel ran for 10 amos. Ushteim esrei mailos hayusham. This is important. There were 12 steps there. Rum malo chatziyama. The height of each step was a half an amma. V'shilcha chatziyama was a half an amma deep. Now, if you have, again, 12 steps that are each a half an amma, so that's already 6 amos high. And then tezvav milos olos mitocha hayordos me'ezras Yisrael ezras noshim. There was another 15 steps that went from the Ezras Yisrael to the Ezras noshim. Rum malo chatziyama v'shilcha chatziyama. Those also were a half an amma high. So again, here you have a situation of 15 steps that are each a half an amma, so that's going to be another 7.5 amos. So we've got 7.5 amos plus the 6 amos, that's already 13.5 amos. Utnan bein ha'ulam v'la mizbeach chaf beizama. Then it says between the ulam and the mizbeach he had 22 amos. Ushtem esrei milos hayusham. There were 12 steps there. Rum malo chatziyam. Each one was a half an amma high. V'shilcha chatziyam, and a half an amma deep. And again, that's another 6 amos. So if you have 13.5 amos plus 6 amos, we now have an elevation of 19.5 amos. Utznan, and we have the Mishnah that says, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, there was another step there, V'gavoa Amma, it was another Amma, which would bring us from 19.5 over 20 to 20.5 amos. V'ducha nasan aleh, there was a platform over there. Ubo shalosh milos, there were 3 steps. Shal chatzi amma, which were each a half an amma. And that's what the Gemara says. Iyam Rebbe Shlomo Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. The point is, if you say the Mishnah in Midos is Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, it's authored by Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, Hainu d'echsi le'pischa. So he's got these extra steps at the end, so it actually covers up the doorway, and that's why you're going to have a low eastern wall. Eloyam Rabbanan, but if you say it follows the Rabbanan, Hoika Palga Diamsa, the Mischazi Le Pischa Begave. It was only 19.5 amos, so you still had room to be able to see a half an amma through the doorway. There was no need to lower that eastern wall. Elalav, Shma Minor, Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. You see from here that it is Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, and now we'll take a look at Rashi, who will explain it a little more in depth. Rashi says, Kol aksolim shahayu sham, all the walls, bechol binyane Har Habayis. We're talking about all the walls that surrounded Har Habayis. So you gvoin harbe meo. They were very high. Meaning the doors themselves were 20 amos high, and then you had above the door a lot of wall also. Chutz mikosel mizrachi, except for the eastern wall, hu atachton l'ragle Har Habayis. That was the first one you enter at the bottom of Har Habayis. Shabo nichnasin l'chel shelifnei Ezras Nashim. From there you entered into the area called the chel, which was in front of the Ezras Nashim. Uminachel nichnasin le'Ezras Nashim. From the chel you got to the Ezras Nashim. Umi Ezras Nashim la'Azara Gedola. From the Ezras Nashim you entered the Azar. That was the way you ascended the Har Habayis. Shekoin asorif es hapara omin bar hamishcha hu Har Hazesim. He would stand on Har Hamishcha. That's the same as what we call Har Hazesim. Asher al pnei Yerushalayim mikedem upnei hakoin l'mayr. If he would face again towards the Beis HaMikdash. Umiskavin v'roa me'al gova rosh hakosel derech hashiorim shelifnim meimenu pischol shel heichel kashu mazeh bedam. When he would sprinkle the blood, he would look through all the doorways to the entrance of the heichel. Kedechsiv v'hizel nochach pnei omoid v'gomer. Now v'im hoisa hakosel gavoa. Now if this wall was high, afal pisha hashorim mechuvanim zeh keneged zeh, even though every gate was right opposite directly in front of the next gate. Shar ha'abayis keneged Shara Ezras Noshim. The gate into the Harabayis was corresponding to the gate of the Ezras Noshim. V'Shara Ezras Noshim Keneged Shara Azara Gedola. The gate of the Ezras Noshim corresponded to the gate of the Azara. V'Shara Azara Keneged Pesach HaHeichel. And the Shara of the Azara corresponded to the entrance of the Heichel. Lo Haya Yachol Liros as Pesach HaHeichel. But still, you would not have been able to see the entrance of the Heichel derech psachim if you look through doorways. Lefi shahahar holech umagbia, because the mountain is ascending. Viola shakarka pesach heichel gavoa chaf amos yoser mikar koi ragle harabayis. That last doorway is more than 20 amos high from the entranceway. V'nimtzes iskop es ha'heichel gavoa mimashko pesach harabayis v'lo yuchal liros chal pesach heichel derech oso pesach. If you would have looked through the doorway of that first gate in the east, you would not be able to see the pesach heichel. And then it goes through the measurements. Utnan kolapsachim utnan lifnim heimenu kol hani tanan utnan de kamais yachal frushe asid la mashkachas de irsi pischa tasav emalos harabayis el Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. The whole point of bringing the dimensions of this harabayis is to show that it's only going to be covered up according to Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov's opinion. Gavon esramama came into Gavon esramama lo mashkachas shenastem b'malos sahar l'rabonan lifnim imenu soreg. Again, since it's all 20 amos high, you're not going to find that it's going to be covered up according to the Rabbanon. Lifnimi menu soreg hayasham lifnimi kosel mizrachi. Right before the, right in front of the kosel mizrachi was what's called the soreg. V'hi mechitza asuya nekav nekav. The soreg was basically a mechitza that was a netted mechitza, was made with holes. Keseiruga mita shel chavolim v'yosin osa b'daf eitz aruchim uktzarim shekorin lattice, like lattice work, umarkivan osan zu agavzu balachson v'kornason balaz prudni. So that was what was called the soreg. Lifnimi oso soreg hayamakam pani yudam. An open area of 10 amos that was called the chel. In front of that was shtei mesrei mailos hayu. Now we start counting the steps. There were 12 steps there. Biosan yuda amos shahar magbiyam in asoreg ashar ezras nashim rum kal malav amalach chatzi amo hareshala karka ezras nashim vav amos. So you see it goes up 6 amos, the area of the ezras nashim. V'shilcha meshach rochav amalach chatzi, meaning the depth, the amount that it went in was a half an amma. V'orka b'chol rochav ahar l'tzafon l'adam. This all goes from north to south. Meaning the length of it goes from the north to the south, the entire width of the mountain. Tesvav Milos Gova Karka Ezra Yisrael Me'ezras Nashim. Now, going to the Ezras Yisrael, that goes up another 15 steps. Hareshala Har Yud Gimel Amma V'chetzi. Now that goes up a total of 13.5 amos. Utnan bein ulum lamizbeach yud beis miles. Now we have another 12 steps. Harishagava karka hechel mikarka rabayis atachton shais ram v'chatzi. Now you're up 19.5 amos. Adayin nisham in apesach atachton. Now, if you're looking through this 20 amma doorway in that first one in the eastern side, the lowest entrance, chatzi amma, you still have a half an amma where you'll be able to see el yona liros derech sham chatzi amma tachtona shel chalal pesach hechel. If you're within the rabbanon, if you look at the upper half an amma of the doorway, you're going to see the lower half amma of that last entrance of the Heichel. So that's going to work out. You don't need to lower the wall. Utnan, but Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer Malo Haisa. But Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says in the Mishnah there was another step. Ode be'ezras Yisrael Gvoa Amma. It was an amma high. V'orcha beroch of kol azar. And again, the length was the entire width of the azara. V'duchan shalavim bono yala. And on that there was a platform built on it. V'gavoa amma v'chetzi. That was an amma and a half high. Uvo gimel maila shel chatzi amma. There were 3 steps. Each one was a half an amma. Sha'olin ben leduchan. That you went up to the duchan. So that's what it says. Yamr b'shlama stamad dekatani dekosel mizrachi namuch. If you're going to say the Stam Mishnah in Midos, which says that the eastern wall had to be lowered, kadei liros mimalo, so that you could look above the wall. Derech sharei ezras nashim v'ezras Yisrael as chalal pesach heichel. You look through the gates of the ezras nashim and the ezras Yisrael to the heichel. That makes sense. Rabbi Eliezer, he di islay mali yaser. He's got that extra step. V'gava karka heichel mikarka tachton chaf amma v'chetzi. So therefore, it's already up 20.5 amos. Hainu di'ich lay pesach atachton begova karka heichel eliyam rabbanon. That's why it's covered up according to Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. Eliyam rabbanon hare lo alu hamaylas aliyut hasama v'chetzi. It's only 19.5. Upashlei palga amsa de mischazi le pesach begave lekohen shabar azesav. That's why you see it seems that the Mishnayos and Meseches Midos follow Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. And so again, the Gemara says, "Elalav shma mino Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov." You see again that the Mishnayos and Meseches Midos are Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. But Ravada Barava says not necessarily a proof that the Mishnayos and Midos are Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. Hamani Rebbe Yehuda. It could very well be that the Mishnah in Midos actually follows Rebbe Yehuda, and there is a reason to lower that wall in the east. The Tanya, as we learned in a Brayser, Rebbe Yehuda says, "Hamizbeach mamutza v'omed be'emtza azara." He says that the mizbeach was right in the middle of the azara. Azara. Ushloshim Mushtayim Amos Hayolo, it had 32 Amos. Rashi over here explains, Ravad Barav Amar Hamoni Dekatani Dekosel Mizrach Yitzrach Lios Namach. You know, who's the Tana that says that the eastern wall needed to be lowered? Rabbi Yehudi, it follows Rabbi Yehuda, Damar HaMizbeach Omid Be'emtzo Azara Keneged Apsachim. The Mizbeach was sitting right there in the middle of the Azara, right corresponding to the doorways. V'nimtza Govo, so it came out that the height of the Mizbeach, Sosem Esapesach Hatachton, closed off the view through that lower door, Sharei Allah Karka Ezras Yisrael Mikarka Hatachton Yurgem Alama V'chatzi Amma, because the land of the Ezras Yisrael went up 13.5 amos, Kodem Shigil Mizbeach, before it even got to the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach Govotation, the Mizbeach itself was 9 high. Harei Esrim Mushtayim V'chetzi, you're already at 22.5. So according to this, it could be that the Mizbeach is the thing that was blocking, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tazayin Amud Beis.